is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Hey, everybody, McGill Billy here.
And I'm Jamie.
Welcome back to One More for the Good Guys. Thanks so much for your patronage and your subscriptions, your likes, and your support. We really appreciate that. We watch our social media platforms grow every week, and the podcast numbers growing every week. And it just seems like we got a lot of cigar lovers and different folks and music lovers. And, you know, we're still gaining on this thing and trying to get everything funneled down into where we need to be. And your all's comments, likes, supports, and suggestions all help us with that. So we just want to tip the cap and say thank you one more time. Be sure to share with your friends. Turn us on to your friends, people that are maybe into the hobby and or UT fans and or cigar lovers or music lovers. And be sure to hit the like and the follows and the subscription buttons for all that stuff. It is completely a free way to help the podcast and the social media platforms, and it truly does help. So thank you. This week, man, we got we kind of gotten a little off of this, but because we've had a few guest episodes of folks that we'd been wanting to have on for a while, but we're going to go back to those 10 things cigar smokers should know. And we've covered the first two. Those are on videos. If you haven't seen those yet, you can go back in the archives.
We probably can recap that real quick if you want to.
Sure, go ahead. The first
two, this is out of an article that Mike found at Cigar Aficionado that we really liked.
From 2017.
Yeah, and top 10 things every cigar smoker should know. And the first one on their list was that cigars are a natural and artisanal product. And we did an episode on that and talked about, you know, how pure cigars are compared to other things that we, you know, partake in. So you can catch that episode. And then the second point was that 200 pairs of hands, and I've seen it up to 300 pairs of hands, go into making each cigar you smoke. So it's an art form, and it's not just, and it puts a lot of people to work in areas where there might not be work.
And it also puts a lot of money back into the economy.
That's right.
In these impoverished countries and or areas to really help have a better way of life.
That's right. These are premium jobs, especially the rolling jobs and the point person jobs, the people that are over certain sectors. These are great jobs in those areas. So,
and there's classes and stuff that I could misspeak on this, but I know J.C. Newman and Fuente, which Jamie's smoking the Arturo Fuente
Don
Carlos in the number 2 size,
which is the best Cameron wrapper cigar in the freaking world. I tell you right now, they're just incredible.
But you know, between the Fuente family and the Newman family with Drew Estate and J.C. Newman Cigars, in the Dominican Republic, they have done a absolute amazing job of building schools, offering education, offering health care, and giving these kids who more or less wouldn't have any of those type of opportunities afforded to them. And they're also doing vocational practices as well to help educate and teach all aspects of the tobacco business, from the growing to the production to the rolling to part of those 200 to 300 hands you were talking about of how to be able to be trained and groomed into getting those jobs.
It's really an old school industry in that way too, because it's almost like we like to go to Biltmore to the every year if we can, and then in the farm area they have a blacksmith there. And if you know anything about blacksmithing, you have to apprentice under a blacksmith before you can be a blacksmith and all that stuff. So that's, in my mind, that's an old school way of doing it. And that's how the cigar industry is. It's that very family oriented, very let's promote from within kind of thing. Right. So it's just, there's so much good that comes out of the industry in general, is that even if you are, I was an anti-smoker for years, but even if you are that, consider the fact that you may not know everything, and that this is doing so much good in a place, especially a place like DR. The Dominican Republic is impoverished, to say the least, and Nicaragua too.
Hey man,
all of them. Honduras.
I've been there. I've been to Honduras, and I've said it on this podcast before. You know, when I got there, I was taken back. I was just like, holy cow.
Yeah. And you weren't born with no silver spoon in your mouth.
Shit, no.
But you go there and you think you are.
No. But then by the time I left, I didn't know maybe who might have it, not had it better, but who was happier.
Right.
As a people, as a group, as a nation. But, nonetheless, and you know what? You're exactly right. It's an old school way, but what forward thinking on the schools and hospitals and medicine and education and vocation. It's very progressive.
That's right.
As well, which is,
they perpetuate their own industry by educating.
Look at you.
And big words. Good. Yeah. Perpetuate their own industry. And that's something that a lot of industries don't do anymore. I think we're probably going to see some of that because not only are they doing it, they're doing it successfully. Mm-hmm. So it's a business model that works.
And keeping it alive.
Yeah. So anyway, we can go on and on about that, but it's a big deal in the communities and the countries that make these. So consider that. We
kind of got into that. I did. I don't know if you caught the tail end of that conversation or if you added any more after I walked off. I had to go get some stuff, but down at Trailhead the other night, we ran into a couple of ladies that we know, and they were asking me, it was 100 questions, like machine gun fire about cigars.
Right.
And, and one of them said, well, it's not like, they've got kids and and she was being very sarcastic and saying like, it's not like a sweatshop where they got 5-year-olds making shoes or sure. or garments. And I said, no, they wait till they're 7. Of course, I let her off the hook and told her I was just being silly, but no, when I was able, actually got to talk about it and tell her all the good things that I knew and about the things that were happening. She was taken aback by it and was very, like we had no idea. It's like, well, why would you?
Well, yeah, it's not mainstream information.
Right.
You got to be you got to be a smoker or at least around it to kind of get involved with it. So it's a whole,
and
you got to be well of stuff.
Yeah. And I think you got to be, that's part of why we we wanted to do stuff like this because you kind of got to be seeking for that educational information, or you're not going to get it.
Yeah, you're not going to stumble across.
Yeah,
unless you're looking for it. Really,
right?
You're not going to pop up on TikTok and see point 3, which is what we're talking about today: tobacco and fermentation of tobacco. You're not going to just by happenstance flip past something like that. So, anyway, point number 3 of the 10 points is that tobacco.
Well, I got to tell them what I'm smoking.
Oh yeah. Well, I told them. Yeah.
Well, I led you into it, hoping that you would.
Yeah, I didn't ping pong real.
No, but I wouldn't expect much more from a
Yankees fan.
I didn't even want to say it. I am smoking. I don't know what I'm smoking. This is, you guys see me do this from time to time. This is a very interesting company. And I've got a back pile full of these things. I haven't smoked them. They've been sitting in my humidor, and I was like, and I keep trying to find like a Robusto size in something, and I'm running out, and I'm like, what am I, okay, that's what I do. I'll do those cigars, but this is from Standard & Twain. Standard & Twain is a company, and I'm pretty sure they're based out of Nashville. It is a Cigar of the Month subscription club, but instead of knowing what you get when they come in, they come wrapped. They take the bands off and they put their bands on with this little URL code up here. And so you go to the website, you click on tasting notes that you like in cigars. You talk about, you fill out a little questionnaire. They put it in their magic machine and they come up with what to send you based upon what you think your palate is. So I wouldn't recommend it to a brand new smoker as much as I would. But if you've been smoking a couple of years or maybe 3 or maybe you're just starting to get interested in all these different reviewers and stuff on YouTube like Cigar Hound Dog or
One More for the Good Guys.
Or One More for the Good Guys or Master Your Ash and different folks like that, Pick Jimmy. You'll hear them talking about certain flavor notes and I'm picking up this or I'm picking up that. Well, this is a great way to start learning how to do this because you are truly, truly blind taste testing.
Yeah, you can't look up somebody else's opinion until you know what it is, right?
And, I mean, you can cheat and look it up first and then smoke it, but there's not a lot of fun in that. So, but I can tell you right now, I don't know what this is, but it is a phenomenal cigar. I mean, really, really good so far. But it's a monthly service or a bi-monthly service. Very economical and a really, really neat idea to discover what tobacco you like without knowing or shopping with your eyes. So check them out, Standard & Twain.
Founded by a former CAO employee.
Okay.
Who currently lives in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Has been all over the world, lived in Nicaragua and so he met his wife there and whatever. So he worked under Tim Osgener of the Osgener, which is the O in the CAO. So, and then later
we got to meet.
Yeah, we got to meet him the other day here in town. And he also worked for Crown Heads. This guy did. Kellen Gorbett is his name. I would imagine it won't be too long in the future. Now, I may be wrong, but that Standard & Twain will be coming up with their own cigars. Let's see how that goes.
Probably so.
Like to know where I haven't found this information yet, but I obviously the Twain part is from Mark Twain, but
well, Standard is the it's written on the box. It's basically determining your standard.
Right. It says Mark Twain once penned a letter called Concerning Tobacco, which if you hadn't read that, read it. Well, Mark Twain was a genius. Probably
Yeah.
one of the two smartest people to ever live in this country. It is a superstition that man has a standard of his own.
Yeah, there you go.
He thinks he can tell what he regards as a good cigar from a bad one, but he can't. He goes by the brand, yet imagines he goes by the flavor. So in this case, you can't go by the band unless you want to cheat, right? And that's like you said, it's no fun. Great idea. I mean, I wish we'd had that idea.
It's really helped me in picking out some flavor notes, and even if my palate's not quite as refined as some, it also does help me like truly come up with that likeness. And or when I lit this, when I told Jamie, I said, man, straight away, and you guys see how far I'm into it, but I was just like, this is a straight up medium. It's right down the middle of the road, and it's not medium full. Now I'm sure it'll probably get there towards the end, but it's not mild to medium. It's not medium to full. It's a straight up medium, and I'm determining more and more as my palate is coming along. I'm liking that even better than I am. At one time I was really into the full flavor stuff, or medium to full. And we've talked about this before. You were much more Maduro, medium to medium full or full. And I was much more Connecticut to maybe a Habano, or to medium, or Cameroon and stuff like that. We kind of flip flopped, and
then kind of starting to settle out again. Though.
You'll take that little journey with
that's
your
a Maduro
palate.
for sure that you're smoking.
Yeah, totally. But
and it looks like it's got a very. I like to guess because I'm probably going to start doing it too. But I like to guess. I would call that probably. At first glance, I thought, is that a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper? But then there's a couple of wrappers that look like that. Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper.
Yeah.
San Andreas wrapper, maybe. But
I don't think it's San Andreas.
Boy, that sucker looks like a pepper stick, though, don't it? It don't look like it'd be medium.
Oh, no.
It looks serious.
Like it would. Yeah, it looks like it's going to get you with some double shot power. I
wonder what that's an awful. That ring gauge is more along the Churchill size than a Robusto.
Yeah, it's like a
48.
It's like a 48 or 50, I'd say.
Yeah.
Probably a 50. It's probably like a 5 and maybe 7/8 or something. I don't know. We'll find out by the end of the deal. We'll let everybody in on it. But it's delicious right now. But now I'm sorry I interrupted you. But I really like this idea. I like this company, and cigars always arrive on time. They always arrive at the same time each month.
In good condition.
And they always arrive in good condition. They have Boveda packages in them. They're always I'm really glad I took a chance on it to try them out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably going to, I did a cigar club like that for a while. Well, with you.
Yeah.
From a company we won't name because we've kind of boycotted them now, but I'm thinking about doing it again because I'm running. Yes.
And wouldn't have boycotted them if their customer service wasn't. Sometimes it's a good, sometimes it's a shit.
Yeah. And
most of the time it was shit.
Yeah.
But we're not here to.
Right. So you to each their own.
Beat on them.
All the companies that sell cigars have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. But look at the ash on that. The burn line's perfect. I mean, that right there is matter of fact, that needs to take a photo of that.
You take a photo.
Okay, here, put it on your. Is
that where you want it? You want it over there?
Cool. That came out pretty good right there.
But that leads us. We digress, but we could totally nerd out. But it's a fun thing, and it sounds like something you know of somebody that you like, or maybe make a great Christmas gift.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for somebody who.
For me, actually, if you're looking to give me something for Christmas.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
But that leads us back around to step number 3, or the third thing on our list of,
and things you should know.
I got the hiccups, of 10 things every cigar smoker should know.
Tobacco undergoes fermentation.
That it do.
Yeah, that it do. And I was thinking about that. I was researching this week and looking at it. You know, fermentation is obviously, when I think fermentation, I think liquor, alcohol, because typically the fermentation process creates alcohol from sugars.
God, this is good.
Yeah. Looks good. And, but in the case of tobacco, no alcohol is produced because they, anyway, you're going to talk about this or whatever else.
Yeah.
But to not make it boring, the thing that I took away from this point, the third point, is this: fermentation equals flavor. That's the point. Why do they do it?
Absolutely.
Because it makes it taste better. I mean, that's why they do it. It's an aging part of the aging process, which we're going to cover in a subsequent episode. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, fermentation is a common to producers of wine and spirits, you know, defined as a process that converts sugars and organic materials to alcohol, often with the use of yeast. But in the tobacco industry, it's more of a microbial fermentation, one that breaks down the leaf organically. So, in other words, through the use of water, pressure, and oxygen. No alcohol, as Jamie said, is produced in tobacco fermentation, but the process releases heat as it changes the chemical's composition and physical traits of the leaf through humidity and oxidation. You know, tobacco undergoes fermentation for one simple reason. As Jamie already said, it simply makes the leaf taste better. The process affects the flavor and the smell of the tobaccos, as well as making it less astringent and reducing the bitterness while bringing out its more floral, nutter, and sweeter aspects. You know, so in regards of that, the alcohol thing, you know, well, that makes no difference. I'll move on. Fermentation is fairly simple. Once the tobacco has been cured in a barn, the leaves are arranged in large piles known as, I hope I'm saying this right, peones. The only thing added is water. The weight of the piles produce the pressure, while the enzymatic and microbial breakdown produces the heat. The piles are checked daily and the temperature is monitored, and when the internal temperature of these peones reach a certain point, the tobacco pile is taken apart, rotated by hand, and then painstakingly reassembled. So, you know, and this could happen, or not could, this happens numerous times, because we're talking, you know, as we get into the next episode of the Asian part, you know, not to skip ahead too far, but just the reason we say this is because these tobaccos will be aged 10, you know, sometimes up to 12 years. You take the 30th anniversary Perdomo, and that thing was ready to go in 2020. Well, then it spent an extra 2 years, which it had already been aged 10 due to shipping and the pandemic. And then, of course, trying to come out the right time of to produce sales. Now you're talking 12 years.
Right.
And it makes a huge difference.
Right. And it's something that to note there, is that we're going to cover aging. The aging is 0.4 of the 10. Is that the fermentation process, even though the tobacco is aging, that's not the actual dedicated aging portion. What it reminds me of is that if you ever been around a pile of mulch where somebody brings in some mulch and just sits it down, a couple of days, you in the middle of that thing's hotter than hell, man. It's burning.
Well, and that's why you see fires all the time.
I mean, there was an eternal smoking downtown Knoxville for years. And it's what it is the bacteria in that stuff creating that fermentation. Microbial. Having to do with microbes. So the fermentation process, because what they will do is they'll, like he said, they stack it and let the weight of it and the heat of it do the work until they get it to the point, because I'm sure, this article doesn't talk about this necessarily, but I'm sure that this is part of the formula. Okay, we're going to let that thing ferment for 27 days. And we're going to put 2 parts per 100 water, because they only add water to wet it down and weight it down to some degree. So I'm sure that there's a for each blend, even there's a length of fermentation process where before they'll take it out of that.
Oh, I would think so.
And cool it down and age it. I mean, with no heat, in other words, not stacked as much. Yeah. So
I'm sure. I mean, with everything they know about, with just the stuff that we know about wrappers, I'm sure each different type of wrapper probably goes, and hey, you still got to ferment the fillers, you still got to ferment the binders, but point being, just all the different types of wrappers there are, I'm sure there is a process or a formula that is, is used as a standard metric for each individual type of leaf, I would imagine.
And you've talked about this on the show before, but one thing it does too is that if you get a smoke, you smoke it and it's got an ammonia or bitter flavor, a lot of times that'll mean it wasn't fermented long enough.
Yeah, it was rushed along.
Yeah. So if you have a smoke like that and you've bought a box of them or whatever, because,
don't give up on it.
Let it age in your humidor. Let it continue to age. And, it's not necessarily going to ferment that much in your humidor based on the temperature, but it is going to age and it will
dissipate.
That's right.
Yeah, it will dissipate for sure. There's been some pretty strong blends. I won't mention any names, but there has been a few strong blends that we've gotten that we've thought, and I've told Jamie before, I said, he'll be like, well, how was that, so-and-so cigar you had the other night? And I'd be like, it was good, but I think with about 6 months, it's going to be even better. And probably with a year, it's going to be delicious, because you just get little hints and little traces of some of that stuff sometimes, and sometimes maybe like some of the Nicaraguan leaf that's known for all that spice, and sometimes with the Honduran leaf that's noted with all that, with the mineral, with the rich, like you got a mouthful of pennies. That will, it doesn't necessarily leave all the way, but it will dissipate from over time. And myself personally, I feel like out of the hobby and out of the time that I've been doing things, that I have had the most luck with longer humidor times. I feel like the Dominican tobacco, something magic happens to it even after a while. I don't know. It just, those little nuances, that sweetness is just a little sweeter, that bread note or that fig note or that raisin or, or just the overall just having just a good tobacco taste. I think that's something that's very overlooked in a lot of cigars and
really kind of rare, really.
Yeah.
That's
it's not as common. You would think, well, damn thing's made out of tobacco, but there are,
you dumbass.
Yeah. It tastes like smoke, you asshole. And I'll give you a great example of that. And I believe it has 3 or 4 different, I believe it's like a 3 or 4 country blend by the time you do wrapper, binder, fillers. But the La Gloria Cubana Medio Tiempo cigar, sometimes you get one that's so sweet you would think that it's sweet tipped.
Yeah.
It's not, or at least they say it's not. But then sometimes you get them and it just tastes like tobacco. I mean, it tastes like tobacco, like a pouch of Lancaster or chewing tobacco for all us hillbillies here in East Tennessee. It just smells like real tobacco and tastes like tobacco.
It tastes, to me, it kind of tastes more like pouch tobacco smells.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
It's like
exactly
almost, yeah. So I agree with that. And I didn't notice that until you brought it up because I'm not a real, now, I mean, I'm smoking, I smoke Dominican. But if you say, hey, you got to pick one country, New World country to get your smokes out of, I'm picking Nicaragua every time for my palate. But I have noticed that you're correct with the Dominican stuff. The longer it sits in my humidor, the better it is.
And some of the Honduras stuff too. I mean,
which I hardly ever. I mean, it'll be Honduran might be a portion of the blend, but it's never.
But not like a Puro or anything like that. But ideally, the tobacco is piled and fermented according to size and type. So different size leaves, different tobacco varieties will ferment at different rates. So the pile must be as homogeneous as possible. The idea is to, naturally after the taste of the tobacco and transform it from its raw bitter state to something smokable and pleasant. And as we said earlier, under-fermented tobaccos will often have a harsh aftertaste and smell like ammonia. It's not a process that can be skipped or rushed, and it is critical in the world of premium cigars. And, like Fuente says, we won't rush the hands of time. That's one of their slogans,
Like Orson Welles says, we will drink no wine until it's time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. What was that wine he was? Do you remember?
It was a California something.
Yeah. I can't remember. That's old school.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Hell, he's been dead for years.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. That was like
early 80s.
Yeah. When they actually advertised.
Paul Masson wine.
Okay.
Commercial started in the late 70s.
Yeah.
We will sell no wine before it's time. That's what he said. So similar thing. I mean, aging process, very important in the wine industry and equally important in this as fermentation. I mean, fermentation process you mentioned it in the beginning. I mean, that's what creates your alcohol, right? So in the spirit world, spirits.
Okay, Chavez. Little Young Guns reference there for you.
If you hadn't seen Young Guns, you need to do that immediately too.
Or go jump in front of a bus. Oh, sorry, that was out loud. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean it.
Oh my God.
Well, the fermentation process is critical in the alcohol, or you wouldn't have alcohol.
Correct.
But
I always think about things, how, like, to me, the way they've come up with stuff that we have now, I'm like, how the hell? But with fermentation, they just let a damn bunch of stuff sit over there, and it's like, oh, it's fermented, So that one was easy to come by there.
Yeah, it's yes, you can do it that way for sure. I've made my fair share of hooch back in the day, from basic like beer making to making liquor and doing the distillation process and all that. But I had at one time I had a 90-gallon mash tank, and if we had a party at the house or something, and 30, 40 people, how parties are. You walk around and you find how many, half empties or quarter empties, and where people don't finish all their drinks. And I just take all that and throw it in my fermenting tank.
Sure.
I mean, you're just going to make alcohol back out of it.
Yep. And
if you're distilling, you're taking all the taste out of it. All you're trying to do is get the alcohol. And then, if you want to be a little bit of Mr. Wizard and get the most yield and the most this and that, then, I used an aquarium heater at a certain temperature, to where it would be the ideal temperature for the yeast to eat as much as the stuff as it could to make the alcohol. And,
which is very important in this process, because it says there that they'll let it get to a certain temperature, and then they'll unstack it,
right,
and then restack it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they mix it up so it can all ferment, because you imagine the stuff on top's not going to ferment like the.
And I ran an aerator.
Oh, yeah.
I ran an air stone, in there that was designed up for like 100 gallons or whatever. And then I also had I think that was it in the mash, but yeah. So a lot of similar instances with this. But the one thing about it is, in the fermentation process, and what a lot of people don't know about, just premium hand-rolled cigars in all, is that it is unadulterated.
Right.
And it's a pure form of just tobacco.
Air and water.
That's
it.
So,
yeah, I was wondering, it didn't say this in the article, I'd probably take some research, but I wonder that because of the fermentation and the heat itself, that's as close as this is going to get, that this tobacco will get to burning before you actually light it and smoke it. Mm-hmm. Just wonder if the aroma of it, when they ferment it and they open it, because they're digging through this stack of tobacco and then that hot stuff's in there. I wonder if that aroma gets them a closer idea of what it's going to smell like when it.
I'm sure.
I'm
sure the first time they unstack it, it's ammonia.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's very pungent.
Yeah. Acrid.
And acrid. So they know right away then, well, got to go to this more step.
Yeah.
So I'm sure over time, a lot of times when I would try to figure out if my mash was done, there'd be the slow bubbles coming up where the yeast was still being active and eat. And then sometimes I just rear back and kick the piss out of it just to get everything jumped and shocked, to where, and then you'd start noticing all the bubbles start coming back up, and it'd start, it's almost like it reactivated.
Sure.
It, from this, sediment and everything that would fall to the bottom of the mash tank. So, I'm sure at some point during that, there would have to be, and here's another thing that's interesting about you asking it in that way, is there a smell? I can smell a homemade liquor or a homemade booze and tell you within seconds if it's going to be worth shit or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because we've said it many times on this podcast, is your taste and your smell are so closely related, and you actually taste more by smell than you do than all the taste buds that you have in your mouth or your tongue, right? And yeah, I can smell, like if you gave me a jar, we'll say, I could smell it right away. Like if you're at a party or you're at a function or you're around a bunch of, whatever, and the guy says, "Hey man, my uncle made this, try this," and I always take it. And I smell it. And if it smells, there's an oily smell. And I don't know any really better way to describe it. It's not natural. When you smell that stuff, it should smell clean. It should open. I mean, right away, you should just be open all the way up and kind of sensory overload. And if it's been mixed or box strong, or if they've captured too much of the heads versus the tails, and heads being the front of the run, tails being the end of the run.
Or if they didn't clean their equipment correctly,
You can, cleanliness more so in beer, for sure.
Definitely in beer. I've had that experience.
Distillation process, you're getting rid of, you can be, you have to be clean, but you don't have to be as clean.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. With beer, but at any rate, I can smell it right away, and I'll just say no thanks.
Oh, you do that?
Hell yeah. I ain't drinking that shit. I know. No. I'm trying to quit.
Fuck your uncle. I ain't drinking that shit.
I really appreciate it, but I got to drive or, I mean, I'm not going to be completely rude. Right. I'll figure out a way to be direct, but kind about it or nice about it. But yeah, no, I ain't drinking that nasty shit.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I've tasted bad liquor. I like good liquor. Speaking of good liquor, this is pretty good liquor. And I don't know if this pairs that well with this cigar. Of course, still don't know what this cigar is, but just a little Four Roses, just regular old Four Roses. Not the biggest fan. I know some people lose their mind over Four Roses, but I had a buddy bring that up to watch a ball game, and pretty good with this cigar. But this Guinness is a lot better with this cigar than that bourbon is. So
yeah, beer doesn't get as much props for being a pairing with cigars, but I think I prefer beer with my cigars overall, especially if I'm. Well, that's a different episode, but I like to get
definitely certain things for sure.
I'm not a real big IPA drinker unless it's accompanied with something that I want that IPA to cut that flavor. So my next puff is good, is new.
Yeah.
It's like refreshes your palate to some degree. That's why I drink, if I am going to drink liquor or a mixed thing, I like something with a little citrus in it because it kind of gives me a new palate every time I smoke. But yeah, man, the Fuente Don Carlos, if you've not smoked that, folks, get you one. I mean, they're a little proud
pricey,
of them, but
they are really, really, really good.
And I'd recommend it in this number 2 as well. I'm not a huge.
The Robusto's good.
Yeah.
It's just not enough of it. You're going to want to smoke 2 of them.
Right.
Because they're that good.
Yeah.
But the Robusto, in my opinion, you may hate it, but in the Robusto size, I like it.
I just like the mouthfeel of this one. It's just, and the draw on it, sometimes you'll sacrifice some draw with a Bellicoso or a Torpedo or something, but this one was wide open, man. It's almost too loose. It's almost not resistant enough, really. You can really get some smoke going. So anyway, brilliant smoke though.
But, that's that's the long and short of the fermentation. And I'm sure somebody who is much more involved in the process or has more knowledge than we do. We don't claim to know everything. We just try to find things that we do know and or things that we're interesting in sussing out and researching and trying to bring that kind of information to you. So if you got any questions about fermentation, put them down in the comment section. You can always email us at onemoreforthegoodguys.com or at goodguyscigars.com, and we'll try to answer your questions, as well as if you got questions about the 200 or 300 pairs of hands or cigars being an artisanal product or any other type of questions. Feel free to put them in the comments and or email us, and we'll do our best to try to give you good information, not false information, and stuff that we can research and find out to help further your education with the cigar hobby.
You want to check and see what cigar that is?
Nope.
Are you going to wait?
No, I will. I'm just being silly. Yeah, I don't think it's broadleaf. I don't know that to be certain. I'm sure it's not San Andres. It isn't rustic enough. It doesn't. I'm probably going to say it's
construction on that thing is impeccable.
Yeah,
it's
still just burning.
It's just
burning great. And it's not I'm through the first third into the second third. Still not rose in strength. No real pepper to speak of. Creamy smoke texture.
You mentioned before we close out, you're talking about the sense of taste and your sense of smell. That's one thing that once you get past what you would call the beginner stage of smoking, you're going to want to learn to retrohale for sure, because I will take the first 2 or 3 puffs, including the cold draw, but about 5 or 6 puffs in, I will retrohale to get that part of my senses activated.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll talk about retrohaling, but basically retrohaling is pulling it in your mouth and blowing it out your nose without putting it in your lungs. And pretty easy to do.
It really is. A lot of people they get hung up on it.
Yeah.
But if you just breathe in like you're doing now, close your mouth, breathe out your nose. It's really that easy.
Yeah, and one way that I learned to do it pretty easily, because you can get your head in the way and your way you're thinking. But what I do is I just put it in my mouth and I just collapse my mouth. That smoke's got to go somewhere, and it won't go down in your lungs if you just.
Yeah.
And it's got to go.
Well, if you breathe in, you have to breathe out.
That's right.
So you either breathe in and breathe out your mouth, or you breathe in your mouth and out your nose, or you breathe in your nose and out your mouth. It's there's not really a big trick to it, I guess.
No. Where people get hung up is on the
overcomplicate.
When they think breathe, they think take it into your lungs, and you definitely don't want to do that. But your nose and your mouth back in your throat area are connected. So anyway, that's important, is to get your nose activated. And a lot of times I'll smell not too close. You get, obviously get some nose hairs on fire, but I kind
of a wafted around.
Yeah. It's a sensory thing. So anyway, fermentation, right?
Yeah. So, this cigar is the J.C. Newman Diamond Crown Maximus. probably the article says here in the perhaps the most prestigious cigar in the J.C. Newman portfolio, retails for $14 to $20 a cigar. In order to one reason for that is in order to complement to the wildly successful Diamond Crown line, they enlisted the help of two legendary cigar families, the Fuentes to make the cigar and the Olivas to provide the tobacco.
Yeah, that's
after
pretty
years,
good start.
Yeah, right. After years of collaboration for the company's 110th anniversary, J.C. Newman launched a full-flavored, bold cigar that could only be created by these three cigar masterminds. Fuente's very best master rollers put together the specially aged Dominican filler and Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper. Exclusively grown on El Bayo region of the Olivia's Ecuador plantation. So Ecuador wrapper, Ecuadorian Maduro wrapper, Sumatra wrapper with Dominican fillers and binders. I was getting some sweetness out of the first third. Their tasting notes were dark fruit, so I could definitely taste that, like some like cherry, a little bit of tartness, but some real sweetness to it as well. Of course, earth, hay. I don't know if I might have got a little hay in the first third, but I found it much more creamier. Second third, they're saying dark chocolate, which definitely it's got a little bit of the bitterness that you get from a really dark chocolate. But definitely espresso. And I thought I tasted this in another cigar the other night, and I never really figured it as a tasting note. Have you?
Coconut? No.
Yeah, but it kind of has that, I don't know. It's kind of that
oily sweetness.
That oily sweetness, and kind of like almost like a copper tone smells.
Oh, okay. Well,
like
that's
that. You know what I mean?
Smells like the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some saltiness in it that I've picked up, which is not too overbearing, but is definitely got some saltiness and just really good.
I find that the dark fruit flavor that they're talking about there, I find
maybe a plum or raisin.
I get that flavor profile a lot in medium.
Now that
medium
you say
full.
that, it's probably more like a fig or fig to like a raisiny sweetness. More so than like the cherry, but it does have a little tartness to it. It's not, but the first third was clean smoke texture. It didn't hang on in my mouth too long, and very, very creamy.
Looks great too. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love the size.
You said it was Diamond Crown?
Yeah, Diamond Crown.
We talked about their new. They've repackaged all their stuff. I don't know if they repackaged.
This is the Diamond Crown Maximus. So this is the Maduro, and the Diamond Crown line. The Julius. No, it's not the Julius Caesar. I think it's just Diamond Crown, which is I believe a Connecticut. They repackaged it, and it looks absolutely fabulous.
Gorgeous. That thing. If you haven't seen that new Diamond Crown labeling,
the color of the wrapper with the new colors of the
especially that Connecticut wrapper. I mean, it's just
man,
and J.C. Newman does the brick house stuff, and that
looks pretty great on there too.
It does. They've done.
Yeah.
But the J.C. Newman Brickhouse, Connecticut is
and
a
look
good
at that
smoke.
thing smoke.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
It's that's hell. I'm a fan.
They say the final third you're going to get some roasted almonds and malted barley and some molasses sweetness. I really like the molasses sweetness. I'm not quite there yet, but these are. You should definitely pick up a stick, and if you could find you a good deal on a 5-pack or a 10-pack of these, if you're, it's pretty rich, it's pretty decadent. So if you're into those kind of, but they're calling it full flavor. I don't find it really, and again, I may when I get down to the final third, but to me, it's probably reaching medium plus now, but it was off the foot. That first third, it was straight up medium and just creamy, sweet.
And since we're on the
really
topic
good.
of fermentation, you're talking about that dark fruit flavor profile. It reminds me when I think of fermentation and flavor profile, it's like my grandmother used to have those prunes that she'd get in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And, say, eat these, are good for you, and keep you regular, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you'll open a thing of prunes, they're already dried plums anyway, but they ferment a little in that stack and that flavor profile. I guarantee you that part of the flavor profile is coming directly from the fermentation process. Has to be.
Well, you know how like a fig has that kind of meaty flavor and meaty consistency. Yeah. Like it's almost like you eat a date, or a date. It's got that kind of probably more so a date.
Yeah,
but really good. I've never had one before. I've smoked. Listen to me. I've smoked other Diamond Crown stuff, but I've never had the Maximus, and recommend it. And again, thanks to Standard and Twain, go check those guys out. Use your big old brains and figure out their website and all that good stuff. What did you get out of yours? Any?
These Don Carlos get better every time. I mean, it starts off with this just. These are not in the beginning. They're not real complex. It's like, okay, that's my flavor. And in the beginning of it, with cold draw, got a little bit of hay and got a little bit of that. Not much spice. It's not the retro hell's not too bad on this, but man, you get down here about midway, completely different. I'm going to say that the middle third of this cigar is perfect. I
get like gingerbread cookie.
Yeah, it's got that little bit to that too. More on the
little zing,
little
sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely get some cedar, a little bit of that classic Cameroon spice, or but yeah, maybe cardamom spice, something like that, It's very good. I would think it would be I don't know. I like them, but.
Well, not everybody's going to like Cameroon wrapper.
Yeah.
It's got its particular spice to it.
It's woody.
It is, and it's not, I don't know. This is we love the Oliva G's and we love the New Worlds, but this one is on a different, it's just one tier above that. For all the way around, and it's just, and that damn band is gorgeous. Look at that shit. And the one complaint I have about Fuente as a brand is that they're not easily identifiable by band.
They're hard.
Now this one is because it's black and gold, but most of them are red.
And some of them are green.
Yeah. And
and then there's like 2 or 3 different ones that are green, and then there's a couple that are red.
Yeah.
Some of those are, but yeah, it's hard to tell them apart. You always kind of hope to kind of see them in the box at the stores and stuff, so I can try to read the,
But even on their website, it's like they'll have, I was looking at it the other day, and they'll have things listed, but the band is so similar. It's almost, you got to, anyway, but these are an absolute staple to have in your humidor. And now that you've smoked that and spoke so highly of it, we're going to need to get some of those. Yeah.
I'm going to try to find us some deals on those for sure. And I want to try to get that. I'd like to get some of those, the regular Diamond Crown line too, for the Connecticut too.
Because they're so damn pretty.
They're beautiful. And, evidently they're the Cadillacs of that brand, but
yeah,
I think that's it. And that's that.
Yeah. Fermentation.
We could go on and, give you an ear beating about all this nerdy shit that we like. We won't do it, but hopefully this has helped you. Hopefully it's answered a few questions, or maybe even arose a topic or some points that you didn't know. But and either way, we appreciate all the support. Go out and get yourself a Diamond Crown Maximus. Go out and get yourself a Don Carlos. I would recommend the Robusto if you can't find the
number 2.
The number 2. Either way, you're going to be completely satisfied. Be kind to one another. It doesn't cost a dime to be kind, but there's always a price to be paid for cruelty. So, you want to do another one, Jamie?
Yep.
You heard it here first. Cheers. Life is too short to smoke bad cigars. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.